Something is moving under the silence, and if you have been feeling that strange pressure in your chest lately, you are not imagining it. This is not small. This is not random. A final choice is slowly forming in their heart, and whether they admit it or not, you are at the center of it. They may look calm on the outside. They may act distant, controlled, even unaffected. But inside, something has become too heavy to keep avoiding. This is no longer just about missing you. It is about what this connection woke up in them. It is about the truth they tried to bury, the feeling they tried to explain away, and the part of themselves they could not fully face while you were still close. Stay with me, because what is happening now is deeper than silence and stronger than pride. They are standing at a turning point, and every road they look at somehow leads back to you. For a long time they tried to stay busy. Work, noise, routines, ego, distance. They thought if they kept moving, the feeling would fade. They thought if they stayed quiet long enough, the connection would lose its power. But some bonds do not weaken in silence. Some only grow louder there. And now the story they told themselves is starting to crack. They are looking back at everything with different eyes, and that shift changes everything. One side of them is pulled toward you with a force they can barely explain, while the other side still fights to stay safe because truth asks more from them than comfort ever did. That is where the tension lives. That is why the energy has felt so strange lately. A part of them wants to step closer, to stop pretending, to finally say what has been sitting unspoken in their chest. But another part still remembers old pain, old disappointment, old moments where trust felt dangerous. So they go back and forth. Forward, back, warm one day, distant the next, open for a moment, then closed again. If you have felt that push and pull, there is a reason for it. This is not always a game. Sometimes it is what happens when someone deeply wants the connection but fears what it will ask them to become. And that is the real issue now. This connection is not only calling them toward you, it is calling them into a more honest version of themselves. That is why it feels so intense. Before we go deeper, hold on to this. If someone keeps returning to your energy in silence, it means the feeling never truly left. It simply went underground. And what stays alive in the dark long enough eventually rises to the surface stronger than before. They are beginning to sit with questions they avoided for too long. Why does your memory return in their quietest moments? Why does your absence still feel alive? Why has no one else been able to replace what they felt with you? These are not light questions, and that is why this stage feels heavy. The mind can deny a truth for only so long before the heart starts speaking louder. Late at night, in the stillness after a long day, in the small pauses between tasks. In those moments, your energy returns, not always as a dramatic memory. Sometimes it is softer than that, a feeling, a pull, a quiet ache, a strange sense that something important remains unfinished. And once that starts happening often, a person cannot keep pretending it means nothing. That is where they are now. The mask is getting harder to wear. The silence that once felt safe now feels full, loaded, almost unbearable. Stay with me here, because this is where the story changes. If they come back, it will not be because they were bored or lonely. It will be because they finally understood that a connection like this does not show up twice in the same life. And if they still walk away, it will never mean you were not enough. It will only mean they were not ready to carry the truth that loving you brought out of them. Right now, your role is not to chase, not to force, not to beg life to speed up. Let truth rise on its own. Let time reveal what words never could. What is happening inside them has weight. It has depth. This is not passing confusion that disappears in a few days. It is a full inner struggle growing stronger each time they try to ignore it. On one side, there is warmth, memory, longing, familiarity, and the rare comfort of feeling seen. On the other side, there is an old protective voice telling them to stay guarded, to keep distance, to protect themselves at any cost. That voice has been with them for a long time. It helped them survive. It taught them how to avoid pain. But now it is clashing with something real. And when protection starts fighting truth, life becomes very uncomfortable. That discomfort is what you may be sensing. They may bury themselves in normal life. They may fill every hour with tasks. They may act like none of this matters anymore. But the more they push it down, the more it rises. Because the real battle was never outside of them. It was always inside. And that is why the next step matters so much. The next choice they make will not just shape this connection, it will shape the person they become after this. You became a turning point in their life, even if neither of you understood that at first. Something in this bond touched the part of them hidden beneath control, beneath image, beneath all the careful habits they built to stay protected. You reached a place inside them that routine could not reach, and once that happens, life never fully goes back to the old version. That is why they are being forced to choose now. They can stay inside the limits of who they have always been, or they can step into something unfamiliar and honest. But that new version of themselves asks for courage. It asks for softness. It asks for emotional risk. And for someone who has lived through disappointment, that can feel terrifying. This pressure is showing up in everything, in their inconsistency, in their silence, in the way they almost move toward you and then suddenly pull back, in the way they seem restless even when nothing obvious is happening. Old illusions are burning away. They can no longer tell themselves you were just a passing phase or a random person. They are being pushed to see you clearly. More than that, they are being pushed to see themselves clearly, and that can shake a person more than love itself. Keep listening, because what comes next is the part most people miss. When someone starts seeing themselves differently because of you, your absence becomes louder than your presence ever was. Every silence means more now. Every absence lands heavier. Every memory returns with sharper edges. This is necessary. Real decisions are not born from distraction. They are born when confusion starts to clear and the heart gets tired of hiding. That clearing is happening now, even if nothing dramatic has appeared on the surface yet. There comes a point when uncertainty becomes too exhausting to carry, and they are moving toward that point step by step. For too long, they tried to shrink their feelings down to something manageable. They told themselves it was not that deep. They said it would pass. They convinced themselves no action was needed, but something stronger inside them now knows that is no longer true. Deep emotions do not stay quiet forever. They grow in silence. They change shape. They wait. Then they return when a person can no longer lie to themselves. That is why your energy keeps showing up in their day, in small flashes, in unexpected memories, in moments where everything slows down and they suddenly feel what is missing. And here is the part that matters. Your absence has become a mirror. By stepping back, you left them alone with themselves. No distraction from you, no emotional shortcut, just the truth of what it feels like without your presence. That silence has started teaching them what words never could. Inside them, fear and desire are now colliding with full force. One side wants to reach for you in a natural, almost instinctive way. The other side panics at the thought of losing control, reopening old wounds, or stepping into the unknown. But for the first time, desire is beginning to sound louder than defense. That does not mean the fear is gone. It means the truth is finally stronger. This is why they may seem unsettled right now. This is why their energy may feel close one moment and far the next. It is not because they do not care. It is because they are standing inside a private storm, and storms look messy before they clear. What used to feel like protection has now become a prison. The same walls they used to rely on are starting to close in around them. They remember the moments they wanted to speak and stayed silent. They remember when pride stood where honesty should have stood. They remember what they felt, and they remember what they did not do. That gap between feeling and action is becoming harder for them to live with. Stay with me, because this is important. When a person can no longer live comfortably inside their own avoidance, change becomes necessary, not optional. Necessary. That is where they are. They are no longer just reacting. They are approaching a breaking point where truth will ask for a real response, not another delay. The connection has become too present in their quietest moments to keep dismissing. It returns when everything slows down. It returns when they try to focus somewhere else. It returns when life looks normal on the outside but feels strangely empty underneath. And that repeated return is changing how they see the whole story. What once looked confusing now feels meaningful. What once seemed like a passing chapter now feels like a pattern with depth. They are starting to understand that they were not only missing you, they were missing the version of themselves that existed around you. More open, more honest, more emotionally alive. That realization hits hard because it shows them something painful. They have been living far away from a truer version of themselves. And that distance has become too heavy to carry. This is a major shift, because once a person starts missing who they became with you, the question changes. It is no longer, did this matter? It becomes, am I brave enough to return to the truth this revealed in me? That is a very different question, and it demands a very different answer. So if you have felt this deep pull lately, trust it. Something real is moving. Slowly, yes. Quietly, yes. But powerfully. And sometimes the quietest inner shifts create the biggest outer changes. Don't click away here, because the next stage is where hesitation starts losing ground. As this awareness grows, the outer world begins to lose some of its power to distract them. They can stay busy, they can talk to people, they can fill their time with plans, work, goals, noise, and endless movement. But beneath all of that, one quiet current keeps moving back to the same place. To you, to what was felt, to what remains unfinished. The part of them that wanted total control is weakening now. That old protective self still tries to keep order, still whispers that distance is safer, still argues that silence is easier. But another truth is rising alongside it. Complete disconnection has its own pain, and sometimes that pain becomes heavier than the fear of closeness. So now they are weighing two futures: the safe path, familiar but emotionally empty, or the unknown path, risky but full of something real. For the first time, the second path is starting to feel more valuable than the first. That is where courage begins. Not when fear disappears, but when truth becomes more important than fear. And with that comes a strange stillness. The pressure is still there, but it feels more focused now, more direct, less chaotic. They are beginning to stop fighting every feeling that rises. They are beginning to let those feelings speak. They are beginning to admit that what they feel is real, that acceptance brings peace, even before action happens. Not full peace, but enough to make honesty possible. Now they are entering a deeper stage of reflection. The silence that once protected them is now reflecting them back to themselves. It is showing them exactly where fear made choices for them, exactly where pride blocked tenderness, exactly where avoidance created a distance that never had to be there. They are replaying memories, conversations, looks, pauses, and unfinished moments with new maturity. They are not only looking back with regret, they are looking back with understanding. They can see where they were not ready. They can see where they shut down. They can see the value of what was trying to grow between you. And something else is changing too. Empathy is growing. They are beginning to feel what their distance may have felt like from your side. They are beginning to understand the emotional weight you carried while they stayed uncertain. That softens a person. It humbles them. Because once responsibility enters the picture, the story becomes more serious. No longer just feelings. No longer just longing. Now it becomes character, choice, integrity. Who am I going to be now that I understand what this truly was? That question matters. And once someone starts asking it honestly, they are already changing. Keep listening, because this is where the final layers of hesitation begin to fall apart. And once they do, movement is no longer far away. It starts getting very close. The old excuses are losing power. The old thoughts of maybe later, maybe never, maybe it was nothing are fading. In their place, something firmer is forming, a sense of must, a sense that this cannot stay unfinished forever, a sense that time matters now. They are realizing that staying stuck is also a decision, and often the most painful one of all. This clarity is not only mental, it reaches the body. They feel it in their chest when they think about speaking. They feel it in the tension that rises when they imagine reaching out. They feel it in the quiet pressure of knowing the truth but not acting on it yet. Yes, the unknown still scares them, but the emptiness of staying disconnected is beginning to scare them more. That is the turning point. That is when movement gets closer. Words once held back begin rising naturally. Actions once avoided begin feeling necessary. Because when truth grows this strong, silence stops feeling safe. It starts feeling unbearable. And remember this clearly. Whatever they do next will not come from impulse. It will come from a long, hard, honest process of finally facing themselves. That is why this matters so much. This is not a passing mood. It is a personal reckoning. Quiet at first, slow at first, then suddenly undeniable. And at the center of it all stands one simple truth they can no longer escape. You changed something inside them that stayed changed. You reflected a part of their potential back to them. You became a mirror at a time when they were still hiding from themselves. Even in silence, your impact remained. That is why their awareness is now reaching a deeper level. The noise is fading. The path is becoming clearer. The question is no longer whether this affected them. The question is when they will stop holding back from what they already know. Piece by piece, confusion is falling away. In its place comes a grounded certainty that feels impossible to ignore. They now see that trying to control their feelings only made them stronger. Pretending not to know the truth did not protect them. It only delayed the moment they are now being forced to face. So if you have been sensing a strong shift, trust that feeling. Something very real is nearing its final stage in their heart. Your role remains simple. Stay steady. Stay calm. Do not chase what is already being brought into the light. Let them feel the full weight of your absence. Let them understand the value of your presence. Let them face the cost of pretending they feel less than they do. Because the person who once kept going back and forth is approaching a line they will not be able to cross forever. One truth will soon rise above every excuse. And when it does, it will reveal exactly who they choose to be. So, hold on to this. The quiet before the truth is often the loudest part of the journey. It feels slow, it feels hidden, it feels uncertain. But beneath it, everything is moving. They are not where they used to be. The old numbness is cracking. The old distance is losing its power. The old version of their life is no longer enough to hold what they now feel. Something in them has outgrown denial. Something in them is tired of half measures, tired of silence, tired of standing in the middle between fear and truth. They are being called to choose. And when that moment fully arrives, it will not just decide what happens between you. It will reveal whether they are ready to live with honesty, with courage, and with the emotional maturity this bond has been asking from them all along. If this message has been echoing something you already felt deep inside, do not ignore that. Sometimes your intuition picks up the shift before the world shows you the proof. And if you have stayed patient this long, then you already know something powerful. What is meant to become clear will become clear. What is meant to rise will rise. What is real does not need to be forced. It only needs the right moment to reveal itself. And that moment, slowly but surely, is getting closer than it has ever been before.